When Officer Trent Mallory slammed a black woman's head into the linoleum floor of a late-night pharmacy, he had no idea who she really was. To him, she was just another body to control, another problem to silence. But Dr. Alana Reed was not simply a doctor. She was also the daughter of the very man who once dismantled an entire corrupt police network in Alabama as a federal agent. But Alana didn't need a legacy or her father's reputation to stand up. She had her own blade, sharp, steady, and aimed directly at the festering rot within a broken system. That night began with exhaustion, not defiance. Alana had been on shift for 28 hours straight at St. Jude's Medical Center in Savannah, Georgia. Her left thumb had started to twitch, an early sign of sleep deprivation, but her mind remained locked on the next morning's procedure, a delicate craniotomy on a 7-year-old girl with a rare cerebral arteriovenous malformation. If anything went wrong during pre-op, if the medication wasn't administered precisely, the child might not wake up. Alana didn't expect complications at the pharmacy. She'd filled prescriptions there before. She had her hospital ID, her Georgia state medical license, the child's records, dosage logs, all in perfect order. But what she didn't have, she realized quickly, was skin that made people trust her. She stepped up to the counter, dropped her documentation with the precision of someone used to being second-guessed, and spoke clearly. "This needs to be filled tonight. Surgery's at 6. The young man behind the counter, a lanky kid, maybe 20, face half buried under acne, nodded and began typing. But after a few keystrokes, he paused. Without saying anything, he leaned back and whispered to someone in the back. Alana didn't need to turn her head. She already knew what was coming. Out came a woman in a white coat, her blonde hair pulled into a precise bun, her eyes already forming a question that her mouth hadn't asked. Her name tag read Jolene. She didn't even look at the paperwork before speaking. "We're having a little issue with this prescription," Jolene said, using that cloying tone some people adopt when they want to sound helpful while drawing a line in the sand. "What issue?" Alana asked flatly. Jolene didn't answer. Instead, she leaned in toward the young cashier, muttered something, frowned, then turned back with a thin smile. "If you could just wait while we verify some information." Verify what? Alana had seen white colleagues lose their physician cards and still walk out with medication based only on a hospital email. But she, despite her certifications, despite over 130 surgeries performed, is being asked to prove her right to exist in that space. Again. And so Alana waited. Silently. Knowing every minute lost here could cost that little girl her chance at survival. Her inner clock ticked. If she wasn't back to the hospital by 2 a.m., there'd be no sleep before surgery. That single hour of rest might be the difference between a surgeon at her sharpest and one working on fumes. But Alana stayed composed. This wasn't her first test. She remembered being stopped by campus security as a med student, accused of wandering into the wrong lecture hall. She remembered a surgical intern mistaking her for a nurse during her residency, even though her name badge lit up in bold red letters, Chief Resident. She'd faced this exact moment too many times: speak up and be labeled difficult, or stay silent and be treated as invisible. Now, at 1:11 a.m., that same tired choice had returned. When Jolene came back, she didn't check anything out, the ID, not the license number. Instead, she leaned over the counter and picked up Alana's hospital badge between two fingers like it might stain her skin. "Alana Reed," she read aloud, then whispered to the cashier just loud enough for Alana to hear. "They fake these all the time." Alana's voice lowered half an octave. "I'm the lead neurosurgeon on a pediatric operation starting in 4 hours. Everything you need is in these documents. If you require more, I can connect you with the hospital's on-call verification directory." Jolene smiled without warmth. "That won't be necessary." Then she turned to the desk phone behind her and dialed. "Yes, I'd like to report a suspected prescription fraud. Female, early 30s, African American. Name's Reed. Possibly impersonating medical personnel." For a moment, silence collapsed the air around them. The charge wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decision made long before Alana ever stepped into that store. Jolene crossed her arms. "Protocol," she said almost smugly. Alana didn't flinch. "No, that's not protocol. That's racism." And yet she didn't yell. She didn't cry. She began calmly gathering her papers, each item a piece of dignity, folded and returned to her bag. If that child dies because of this delay, she said, her voice unshaken, you won't just answer to the hospital. You'll answer to the public. 10 minutes later, the front door opened with a thud. 2 officers entered. One tall, broad, built like a linebacker and twice as smug Officer Trent Mallory. The second was younger, softer in expression Officer Riley Shaw. She's impersonating a doctor, Jolene blurted. Alana lifted her head. I'm not impersonating anyone. I'm a board-certified neurosurgeon at St. Jude's. Mallory barely glanced at her license. Real doctors don't pick up meds at midnight. Real cops, she countered. Verify facts before using force. That was all it took. Mallory's hand snapped out, grabbing her wrist. Alana's body twisted, her head hitting the counter's edge with a sickening thump. Blood began trailing from her forehead. Somewhere in the corner aisle, a black boy raised his phone and began recording. Mallory saw him and snarled, "Put that down, or you're next." Shaw hesitated. He saw the ID fall to the floor. He saw the hospital seal. He did nothing. In the patrol car, Alana sat cuffed, wrists already bruising. The digital clock read 1:14 a.m. In less than 5 hours, her patient would be wheeled into a sterile OR. But her surgeon Alana was bleeding in the back of a squad car. When Mallory mocked her again, "Oh, you're a doctor now?" she didn't respond with rage. She responded with clarity. "There's a child whose life depends on me. And you're taking that away." They didn't care. Back at the precinct, no one looked at her. Mallory shoved her into the booking chair and muttered, "Use your one call wisely, Doc." Alana didn't call a lawyer. She called the hospital. "Tell Dr. Rivera to take the case. Don't cancel. Tell the girl's mother I didn't forget." And that's when show-haunted, broken, silent Nomo finally understood who she was. Hours passed. But in a small cabin in North Carolina, a retired federal agent's phone buzzed. Marshall Reed read the message once. Then he stood, strapped on his old badge, and called in favors that hadn't been used in over a decade. By dawn, he was in Savannah. The storm that followed would shake the entire department. Federal agents arrived. An audit uncovered years of buried complaints tied to Mallory, excessive force, missing persons, redacted footage. A boy named Darren Fields. Gone. Case never followed up. When LSNO Alana testified at the federal hearing, she didn't ask for pity. She asked for structural change. AI body cams. Civilian oversight. Ethics training led by victims of wrongful detention. Mallory sat silent. The judge sentenced him to 13 years. No parole for 8. His name would be recorded in a federal misconduct archive. But for Alana, justice didn't end in a courtroom. She returned to her hospital. She operated on Mia, the little girl. She lived. And then Alana returned to a small church on East 39th, where a wooden bench became known as the Bench for Dignity. She listened. She hugged. She taught new doctors not just how to heal, but how to see. Even Jolene came. "I forgive you," Alana said. "But I won't forget." Neither did the world. Because of her, training programs changed. Cities re-examined use of force policies. And when a pre-med student whispered, "I want to be like her," Alana simply smiled and placed a hand over the girl's trembling one. She didn't need headlines. She had saved a life. And that, she knew, was enough.